Hi, I'm Wade from Thoroughbred Diesel, and today we're going to be doing an LML Duramax buyer's guide. Today is a big buyer's guide for Adam and I because today we're doing it on the LML Duramax. And the LML Duramax is near and dear to Adam and I's heart because we had a 2011 LML truck that we got that was what Adam and I started out on trade shows in, and we drove that truck from 2012 all the way up to 2019 and really enjoyed that truck. So we're going to talk about that kind of as we go through the buyer's guide. As with the Duramaxes that we've done before, we do our Duramax buyer's guide by the engine, and with LMLs we have a body style change in the production run of the engine, but we'll talk about that as well. But we're going to talk about what we always do, the same four things as we always do. We're going to do body, we're going to do interior, we're going to do drivetrain, and then we're going to do engine by itself and talk about each one of those things. So inside of this buyer's guide, we hope that you are able to make an informed decision if you're looking for a GM Duramax LML equipped truck. And really with the Duramaxes, when you talk in those engine codes, the LB7s, the LBZs, the LMLs. The LML Duramax was the second longest production run of the Duramaxes, and that shows the advancements that it made over the years. But it ran from 2011 to 2016, and there was a body change inside of that between the GMT 910 platform to the K2, whatever it is, platform. This is the 14, so this is the newer model truck, the K2, which went from 14 to 16 on these trucks. So I want to talk just a little bit about some of my rhetoric inside of this and how I'll explain this. I was born, a GM guy. I was raised in a GM household. That's all, my dad was a GM guy, and that was ingrained inside me. So now still to this day, if I was going to go out and purchase a gasoline motor vehicle, I would be searching out for to buy a GM because that's inside of my mind. Because I've worked in the light duty world for so long now, I've come to appreciate the good in all of the platforms, and I've become a student of the bad as well inside those. So I own a Duramax, of course, and I own a couple of Dodges as well. And that's motor specific for me. That's engine specific for me because that's what that's what I like. That's what a buyer's guide for me is about. I could care less whether I was riding down the road on a couple cinder blocks or whatever. Interior doesn't do anything for me, so I hope that I articulate this very well for you all to be able to make an informed decision on those different things and put the way I view it aside from that. So we're going to give this a good run through. Again, this is near and dear to Adam and I, so we hope we will portray it well because the LML engine platform was amazing to us, never left us on the side of the road. As a platform for our company, for Thoroughbred Diesel, it's a big part of what we do today. So, as we do always, we're going to talk about the four main components here of a truck. We're going to talk about the body, we're going to talk about interior, we're going to talk about drivetrain, and then we're going to break engine out from drivetrain and talk about engine by itself. So we're going to start out talking about the body. So body's usually our quickest segment that we do, and same thing with the Chevrolet here. The Chevrolets are really good at talking about all of the Chevrolet platforms with the Duramaxes in them. Not a whole lot of big major body problems that you have inside these trucks. With this K2 platform, so again, like we talked about, the LML had two different body styles in it. It was the GMT 910 and then the K2 body style. Again, this is the K2, the 14. The brake on that is 7 to 13 for the GMT 910, and then 13 to 16 is the, or I'm sorry, 14 to 16, apologize, is the K2 platform. This is the K2 body style. Change of the tailgate with the K2 between the JMT. Bed sides were a little bit different. Difference in the tail lights. These tail lights show a little bit of water intrusion inside of there. I've seen quite a few of those. I don't know that that's specific to the K2. It just seems like we see that so much anymore. Rear bumper on these. This was a bumper change that came out on the Chevrolets. It wasn't on the GMT 910 that had the step in the side of it. And then, of course, this truck shows signs of it even as a 14. The rocker rust. And this is a clean truck. You're just going to have to, if you've got a Chevrolet and it doesn't have rocker rust, good for you. you know, you want to make sure you keep these trucks clean. We drive them through the salt. You want to make sure that you get the salt off of them as quick as you can. I don't know that you're going to stop the rocker rust on a Chevrolet. I think it's just a thing. Mine's the exact same way. The doors on the LML trucks, it seems like they went over to this K2 platform. I don't know if this is correct or not, but visually, when I see the rear door on this, the door seems longer to me. And maybe I'm wrong on that, but that's the way it looks. Between that and the GMT 910, the wheels are the same on this package. It slips my mind whether there was another wheel option in this platform or not. The hood received a pretty significant change with the K2 platform. It had, I'll call it a double hump runner, and then they moved the badges up on the hood. The headlight and grille on the K2 were different than the GMT 910s, and then of course with the LML that went in the GMT 910 and the K2, this body style, to me, the most pronounced difference in it and the other year ranges on Chevrolets was just the bumper size. Chevrolet went with a much wider bumper, and aesthetically, I don't know what the engineering thing there was to bring. I assume to bring the front end of the truck up higher and to make it look higher, and then to cover that kind of with a larger bumper. It would be my guess at it. I may be completely wrong there. But yeah, I mean, that's really the long and the short of body. There were some mirror changes in that platform as well. We didn't have any, there wasn't anything body specific about the truck that I didn't like, the GMT 910 that we saw. So I don't think there's anything body wise that you're going to have to really, really worry about here or jump out. So we're going to give a good grade to body on these trucks. So the LML truck interiors. Now I'm going to give you a caveat on this. So if, as I speak on this, it kind of takes a downturn. This truck platform in the 14 and up trucks, I really, really do not like. I just don't like it. But this is a nice, clean truck. I mean, it's a beautiful truck, and there's it is wildly popular. So it's probably just a me thing. But I'm going to show you a couple of things that kind of irk me about it. But again, it's a gorgeous truck any way it goes. So, normal wear points on the interior, with mileage. This is a 200,000 mile truck, so the corner of the seat's got a little bit of wear on it, but it's not bad. The leather has smoothed out with wear, of course, it as it should. The gauges in these trucks were a upgrade from what you had in the 7 to the 13 trucks. I didn't mind the gauges in the 7 to the 13, but I know that I have seen many consumers just absolutely hated that gauge, and they like this gauge much better. I'll fire it up so you can see it here. So you can see it lit up. They like that gauge much better. The console and everything here, the functionality of the HVAC controls, are all well placed in my opinion. The radio controls, I do like the radio controls on this specific radio setup on this truck. I didn't like the radio controls on the earlier model. Adam, you remember that? We always fought with that too. Four-wheel drive selector, I felt like in this application was an upgrade from what it was in the previous year. I still don't like the light controls. I didn't like the light controls either on the previous model either. But the one thing I do love about these trucks is compared to the previous models is the center console. I think the center console is the best one that they had with the multiple cup holders and their little trays there. Not as much storage in it as some of them, but I just think the functionality of that one is much better than any other iteration of that you've seen. So, and the seats are nice. The leather is nice. The back seat, this is the same, as to my knowledge, is the same leather style as what the previous model was. So yeah, no problems with that. You can see that that plate is coming off. I know that's a common thing on the trucks for you to look for. But so there's really nothing interior wise, in my opinion, that kind of jumps out to me here. Now that I've got a child, I'm actually looking at the seats, looking for the quick hookups for the child seat, which are there. So that's nice, of course. But yeah, you know, it's a beautiful interior. You know, I've seen some of these trucks that guys have dolled up. You know, now that we go to some of these more truck show oriented shows that we go to, I've seen some amazing interiors that they've done on these trucks, and they're just gorgeous. So the dash on Chevrolet seems like they're coming up higher, and the windshield seems like it's sloping back more, just to me, and that just, you know, when you raise that dash up, it feels like the cockpit's almost cramming in on you. But you know, with seat time, you get used to it. You know, it's not bad at all. But you know, it's Chevrolet interior. You know, it's very functional and basic in looks, but still really nice. I saw that. Yeah, right there, that wheel pinch. Oh yeah. And too, where the paint's kicked off of. When they go in and out with their boots and whatnot, and if you kick paint off of it, as soon as you kick paint off of it, that's, you know, you're going to be inviting in some rust. So now it's time to do drivetrain, and then we'll do engine after that. Now we're talking about drivetrain and engine. We're going to give you the what to look for, and then what you're going to be able to do with it after you make your purchase. So in drivetrain, we talk about axle, transfer case, and transmission. With the 2011 and up Chevrolet trucks with the LML Duramaxes, they had the same axles as they've had since the launch of the Duramax in 3/4 ton and ton trucks. You have the American axle, 14 bolt, 11.5 inch rear end. Only available to buy it in 1 gear ratio, 373. Doesn't matter what you get, cabin chassis or whatever. 373 is all you can get in this truck. This is a very, very good axle. I like the American axle 14 bolt. I think it is a great axle. I think it is proven throughout these models. It's a testament to the quality of the axle that Dodge uses it as well. So that tells you what you need to know about that. You're really not looking for anything here. You're looking for anything like any kind of major leaks around the axle or the rear cover or anything like that. That just tells you that you got a leak somewhere and you're going to have to address it. But why does it have a leak? Because we don't see a lot of leaks on that American axle rear end. Front end, you know, as I said, I'm a Chevrolet guy. I understand the dynamic of independent front suspension. I know that it is going to probably get you a better traction profile when you're out doing something, but I personally do not like IFS. I would absolutely love it if Chevrolet went back to a solid front axle. That's never going to happen. That's just a dream. So we're going to talk about what we've got with IFS. If you're new to IFS and you don't understand it, we'll kind of talk about what you're looking for in one of these trucks. So when you're buying one of these trucks secondhand, you know, with this age of a truck in the LMLs, we're talking about second and third owner that you're coming across. So what you want to look for in this is when you first look at the front end on these trucks, when you go under and you look at the tie rods, remember what we've talked about 1,000 times on these trucks. If it's got tie rod sleeves on it, there's a reason somebody put tie rod sleeves on it. Probably because they knew that if they did a boosted launch on it or whatever it is that they did on a Saturday night that caught their fancy, there's a pretty good chance they were going to wind up bending the tie rods. That's what you get with the independent front suspension in that style of a truck. So you're going to want to look for tie rod sleeves on those or any upgrades that people have done to that. That doesn't necessarily mean that the truck's been beat on. It just means that, you know, they have made an adjustment there, and then you're going to want to figure out the whys to that. The output shafts on either side, you're going to want to look for the constant velocity axle or CV axle. So you're going to want to look for boot tearing, leakage around that, anything of that nature. Weren't really known for that too awful much. You know, output shaft failure was a thing, but we really don't see a whole lot of that. Upper control arms, on that steering system. Really another wear item that we see quite a bit as far as ball joints and stuff go. So if you want to jack the truck up, put an iron digger underneath the wheel, give it some tension on it, just check the status of the ball joints. If you've got a wore out ball joint, it's going to cost you a few $100. You might want to make that into your negotiation. So you definitely want to check that out, because the front end of these trucks, even though I feel like, and I might get beat up on the comments in this, I feel like IFS, even though it gets there's guys like me that would love to see Chevrolet go back to a solid front axle. I feel like an IFS truck holds its wear longer, so it doesn't start driving like a Dodge for quite a bit more, so you get a little bit more grace inside of that. I hope I said that correctly, but you do want to check it up, jack it up, check the tie rods, check the ball joints, and and that might be part of how you negotiate. Now, inside of drivetrain, we have transfer case and transmission as well. The 2011 year model with the LMLs came with a fully updated, I'll call it, 6-speed Allison. Now, the 6-speeds had been out for a few years before the LML platform came out, but this 6-speed Allison is a better mousetrap. This is I'm going to call it almost a fully electronic Allison, which that's a terrible description. However, pressure control in this model Allison was fully electronic. So you'll see, we sell EPCs all the time. A lot of the first step these guys would have done on the truck would have put the EPC fooler in it, and that just ramps up line pressure, makes the transmission hold more. Then when you go in with proper tuning, it kind of, in this version of the Allison 1000 and this 6-speed, again, you got a little bit more leeway with this one. You could get up to that 500 horsepower without almost immediate problems as you had in the earlier 5 and 6-speed versions. But again, that was subject to your right foot, the tuning that you did, and so on. So if you purchase one of these trucks, what are you looking for? If you get in the truck and the truck has got a check engine light on it when you go to do a test drive, that could be an engine thing. It could very well much be a transmission thing. So you're going to want to read codes. If you have anything inside of the codes that are red, that are transmission related, you need to be concerned. Another thing with this model truck, with the 2011s, these were, again, the platforms that we had so many problems with TCMs in. Now that goes into buyer's guide as well, because you might be able to pick one of these trucks up for a really, really good price because the previous owner just can't figure out what's wrong with it. They don't have any prindle right now, no drive, no nothing. You can tell they think maybe the transmission is just completely out of it. It could very well be a TCM thing. You might be able to get the truck for a great price. Not to tell you to go out there and take advantage of anybody, but sometimes people get sick of crap like that and they just launch a truck and whatever. You might get lucky enough to find one of those. The TCM was a big, big problem on this truck. Transmission, not so much. TCM, oh yeah, absolutely. And then we don't talk about this enough. With the 2011, you also got a fully upgraded transfer case on these trucks. This transfer case was a lot better version than the previous versions. We didn't have the pump rub problems. Input shaft on this transfer case was larger. In fact, on the Allison, of course, the output shaft is a little bit larger to be coupled with this case. This transfer case, I'm pretty sure, and tell me if I'm wrong in the comments, you can only get this transfer case version in these trucks in the push button drive or the switchable drive. Electronic switcher is the only way that you could get it, I'm pretty sure on that. So drivetrain, not a whole lot that you're looking for here front end. You want to make sure you got it shored up. The truck drives well. You want to make sure in the transmission we don't have any codes or anything like that. Transfer case, you're really not looking for anything there. I don't think you're really going to find anything. However, if you crawl underneath the truck and it looks like it's got a bullet hole through it, that should be concerning. So just obvious signs. So drivetrain on these trucks, excellent drivetrain. We've showed you what to look for. All right, here we are, the LML engine, and that's what we're really, that's what I've been so excited to talk about. So This engine, this was my first taste in driving and seat time, extended seat time, other than the LB7. You guys know I love an LB7. I really, really enjoyed this engine in how we drove it. And I'm going to talk through all of what you're looking for. But for me, as far as critical as I am on engines and drivability, I really like the LML. This was my first rodeo with being able to tow a sizable trailer with the engine brake, with the exhaust brake, and the coupled with the transmission strategy that just made stopping this truck, pulling a load, an absolute breeze. I absolutely loved it. So enough about that. So LML engine. First off, let's talk about what you are looking for when you go to look at one of these trucks. All right. In any motor, light duty engine, light duty diesel, blow by is the thing that you are looking for always, okay? And the LML engine got a upgraded piston in it, and it got an upgraded rod as well. Now, we still saw LML piston problems with cracking in these trucks, and it was pretty prevalent. Let me tell you something. If you go look at one of these trucks, you've got to take it out, you've got to drive it, you've got to get it up to operating temp, and you've got to take the oil fill cap off of it, and you've got to check blow by, okay? Because when you check blow by, it's going to be telling you something, and you better be listening. If you get it up to operating temperature and you take the oil cap off of it and it shoots that oil cap off the hood, it's telling you a story. Again, you better be listening to what it's saying. But that was a rarity. Again, what this engine was subjected to is going to be what you're left with when you purchase it at second or third or fourth owner or whatever you are of it. Bad tuning will tear up a motor, okay? Not taking care of a motor is going to cost you an engine. All the things, because this truck is emissions equipped. If the previous owners were not good to their emission systems, it could have cost them an engine as well. So you have got to take these trucks out. You have got to drive them. You have got to check blow by when it comes up to operating temperature. You have also got to grab this upper radiator hose and feel for tension after you take it out and get it up to operating temperature. Let it sit for a couple of hours and come back. If the pressure's still there, something going on in the cooling system, could be a head gasket, could not be. So that is just basic engine diagnosis that you're doing on a fly when you're out looking at a truck. Now, talking about the fuel system on these trucks, one thing that you're not going to be able to check for is a CP4 failure. When you just go to a car lot or go on private treaty and look at one of these trucks, you're not going to be able to take the time to pull the FCA out of the CP4 pump and look for metal shrapnel on there. So what are you going to look for an idea of the condition of the fuel system? You're going to want to download codes in it. Again, you're going to want to look for P0087 codes, which will be a sign of low rail condition. And that doesn't necessarily have to be from a failing high pressure system. It could be a clogged fuel filter, but your general look at a truck to see how well it's been maintained in other areas are going to tell you how well that the engine has been maintained. So fuel systems on these trucks, this was the introduction of the CP4. This was also the introduction of the piezo injectors in these trucks. Piezo injector failures are not as prevalent as our solenoid style injectors. They're pretty tough. They don't like bad fuel, but they're pretty tough. This model Duramax, again, the CP4, I think, again, Duramax missed the mark by not putting a lift pump on these trucks. The first thing we did with our LML was we put a lift pump on it, and the CP4 survived. We never had a problem. There are plenty of things that you can do to the CP4 to upgrade them. CP3 conversion are out there. There are metering valves that are out there with the screens on them, all the things. So there's plenty that you can do, but you're wanting to look for codes and things of that nature to see what the condition of this fuel system is. Excuse me. So the you know, again, with the Duramax, top end of the motor, you don't get access to the turbo to be able to grab an impeller wheel and check the status of it. But you audibly, when you drive down the road, if you hear a loud whistle or something like that, that's going to tell you that you've either got something rubbing inside the turbo or probably an exhaust leak. If you've got an exhaust leak, you're going to need to figure out where that came from. And that's really what you're looking for. But again, what tool do you have at your disposal when you go to look at these trucks to figure out the condition? Is take a scanner with you, scan it for codes. If you've got the capability to take the scanner and drive down the road and watch fuel rail pressure, check the balance rates, all the things that can tell you a lot about the condition of the engine. This LML engine is a tough motor in my opinion. I think that it is a really, really good iteration of the Duramax engine. Not a huge fan of the CP4, obviously. I like the piezo injectors, so once you get the CP4 out of there, it's going to make you a really good truck. I want to talk just a little bit about the emission systems on this truck. The LML really had a lot of problems in the DEF tank. There were fuel level sensor problems, there were fuel heater problems, there were DEF pump problems. A lot of problems in the DEF tank. And I'm going to say the majority of the problems with the aftermarket treatment system were DEF tank related, you know, and sensor problems inside of the system as well too. If you see any codes for any of those things, know that those are going to be $300 or $400 to fix, depending on what the code is. So that's going to be something that you're going to have to deal with as well there. So that's a very prevalent failure inside of these trucks as well. So engine, you know, very good grade. Don't think you're going to be looking for a lot here, but hey, listen, this is a 2011 to 2016 truck. You know, these trucks are over 10 years old now. So obviously wear and tear on these things. When you get to the 150, 250, 350,000 mile trucks, these are some of the things, these types of failures that we're talking about, you know, down cylinders, those are things that can creep up on you there. So LML definitely gets a good grade from us. So the LML Duramax, what is this for you guys that are out here looking for one? I mean, I've always considered the Chevrolet, the 3/4 ton platform with a Duramax in it, kind of the gentleman tower of the light duty diesel sector. You know, this is a nice truck. It's a beautiful truck. It's beautiful for a daily driver. If you wanted to get one of these and put them in your fleet, something for your wife to drive, plenty of room inside of it for the family. A very safe vehicle, a very capable vehicle. It's not going to be nickel and diming you to death with failures and things of that nature. But there are some glaring things like we talked about on the engine side with CP4 failures, piston failures that we see inside these trucks that you need to be looking for when you purchase a truck, and then you need to be thinking about as you own the truck to take care of or to upgrade or to do those things. If I was a guy right now, and let's say here's a perfect use for an LML truck, I think would be great. I might even do this in my retirement. I don't know that I'd grab an LML, but if I retired when LMLs came out, you know, when they first came out, that's probably what I'd do. If you had a 24-foot cattle trailer and you wanted to haul cattle all day long, and you wanted a truck that had plenty of power to be able to tow, it had plenty of stopping capability, had all the creature comforts of a really nice 3/4 ton truck, that just wouldn't beat you to death and rode really well, this would have been the truck for you. Really would have been. It does a good job. I and Adam, I can attest to this as well. We had zero problems out of the truck that we spent, you know, 8 years of our careers in driving up and down the road. So it definitely got a thumbs up from us. So if you're looking at one of these trucks to put it in your fleet, you think about buying a camper, all the things that we talk about, for maybe you're just now entering into the light duty diesel world, the LML Duramax is definitely going to get a thumbs up from us, depending on what you're going to be doing with it inside of its capabilities. But there's going to be things that you're going to want to look for inside of it that aren't, you know, maybe that may very well be a deal breaker, or they may be a negotiating tactic for getting the truck for a better price, or what you're going to pay for it at the end. So if you have a question about LMLs or any Duramaxes or anything Thoroughbred related or diesel related, just give us a call. We really appreciate you watching this buyer's guide.